So we have a question over here. Oh, we have a question? Yeah, please.
My question is for Mr. Nguyen. All right, it's very simple. Actually, how do you convince your client to invest for landscape and greenery? And then that is because it consumes money. And then another thing is, how do you ensure that they could maintain the landscape and greenery in your project? That's it.
Can you please repeat it a bit slowly and simply for him? Thank you.
Okay. How do you convince your client to put landscape and greenery elements in your project? And then another thing is, how do you make sure that they can maintain the landscape and greenery that you make for them? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Very, very good question. Thus, the question is, wherever I go, whatever I start to do for my own project, they all ask the same question. The challenging is of an architect is to do something better for society, better for overall environment. But it's always the conflict with the investors. As you mentioned, it's something about, everybody knows the greeneries, increase the greenery, it's always a good thing to do. But rarely the people see how much they have to pay for it, for investment. But investment is one thing. It's more important is maintenance. So we have to come to the balance to keep kind of obligation how to design the project when we start, okay? In general, the greeneries for investment costs less than any other luxury things. But definition of my design luxurious is not about how much you spend for interior, but the dialogue of feeling, what you have when you within the space, and to dialogue with in and out. That's the luxurious, especially in a city. Everything else, try to make it as simple as possible, as clean as possible, and the green stand out, and to connect with the people. Okay. Second is how to keep the landscape with the lowest maintenance. Is one thing is, of course, we have to choose the plant and trees which is suitable for location. And second thing is vertical plants is something you need to have technically, like you need to integrate with the piping system and timing setup. And also today kind of you have the powders to contain the water inside, don't waste it. So 2 to 3 times per week maximum, you can put the waters, and then the powder holding the water, and it's flow and keep the moisture inside the planter box. And one of the difficult things is you mentioned. So at the end of the day, I convince to our client, take and give. What you take is for the community. And at the end of the day, you stand out because you're doing something different. And you think that you're spending money, you have no profit, but you have a lot of profit. Thank you.
Thank you. So as we prepare for the next question, Okay, we have a question here.
I have a question to Richard Parker. Okay, you mentioned about placemaking, in which the residents felt the sense of ownership, the love and care about the place they live in. But we are living in a global society where in a city there are immigrants, emigrants, people move in and move out. Instead of familiar faces, we are becoming strangers. So the architectures are ephemeral. Today the shop is there, and the next 2 years it's a different shop. So in your opinion, how do we balance this place-making in our global society? How do we implant this sense of belonging to this fast-paced, ever-changing society? So they are also to be part in our community too, and care and love about our place in a deeper level in a shortest time.
Interesting. I understand your point. When you have an homogeneous community, you're all born and raised in one place. It's easy to control. I understand when you say you have people come from outside to live in your community. You have to be honest with these people. It's like raising children. If you have a naughty child, you have to be honest with the child and tell them that they're doing wrong. And this is not an acceptable form of behaviour. So when these people come from outside, you do have to show them a little bit of love, although you don't know who they are. They're foreigners in your community, but somebody has to sit them down and say, look, this is our community, you're welcome here, but please, can you behave in this manner? You must teach them, because they don't know. They've come from a different society with different values. And I understand in a developing society, when you have foreign workers come in and they all move into a house somewhere, they live on their own, away from you and away from the community. If you try, you can make them feel welcome, and you can teach them how to behave in your society, so it no longer becomes a big problem. As far as people moving in and out of your community, communities are families. Families stick together in any community. It's like, as a parent, when I lose I've got 2 sons who reached a certain age and they left my house, and I was sad, because for many, many years I saw my boys every day and we did things together as father and son, and then they got to 18 years old and they just walked out the door. They were gone. They didn't even tell me they were going. One day the car is in the garage, next day the car has got all the clothes inside and they're gone. So I kind of felt very empty and lonely because my kids had gone. So I have to deal with that in my own life, of people coming and going out of my life. And the same thing happens in a community. You have to be strong enough to understand. It's like losing a friend. You have your best school friend has lived in your neighbourhood all your life. You went to school, you played together, you did everything together as a teenager, and then they got married and left, and you never saw them again. They moved to another country. You still have to keep. You can't just say, because they've gone now, my life is empty, the community is gone, the community is no good anymore. When somebody leaves a community, somebody will come back and replace them. And maybe you build a stronger bond with this new person. It's not always negative and bad all the time. So, but I think as a community, it's like having a family. You have to sit people down and talk to them, explain, this is my community, this is how we live, this is what I want, and you're welcome to stay here if you go along, huh?
Yeah. There's one question that we had over here, and this is for Mr. Nguyen Manh. It seems that you have done an incredible work with integrating landscape with architecture. Can you share a little bit more about that design process? How you work with a landscape architect, or whether they are in-house, or how you go through the actual design process. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Thank you very much for the question. Our company today, we had three divisions. But architecture, interior, and landscape. Three scope of works, but we work in two different groups. Means we only have two groups. Architecture, landscape is one. Interior is one group. To be honest, I don't know anything about landscape. Really true. I'm a graduate as an architect. And I start to learn a little bit, put planted trees everywhere. Since I start to design, understanding of need integrating in and out. And I start to learn by myself, by going through the project and see the plant and trees and learn, start from there. So we don't have the landscape architect in our company. And you know that tropical climate is, we think in ourselves in the way that no boundary between in and out. We have to lead the space, in and out. It's kind of transition, but to create the feeling for the people in tropical, that as much as nature integrate to your building as possible. And the other way around is nature is taking over the architecture. That's my design philosophy. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we shall have one last final question. Please be informed, sorry, we have to eventually cut the question and answer slightly short. What we can do is at the end, we'll invite all of the speakers up on stage and you have an opportunity to ask them any in the afternoon. So one last question before we move on to the next part of the program. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Sharon. My question is to Mr. Richard Parker. Okay, as I understand, you mentioned a lot about placemaking, and then you mentioned about involving the community to be part of the placemaking. And then I'm also, as James just informed, you have a lot of projects in Malaysia, so you know the Malaysia setting of community where, you know, it's very political, everything is very political. You want to build a salty swimming pool, you have some supportive and another group will, you know, just fight and say, no, you cannot do that. One group say yes, one group say no. So just now when you say what you did back in Australia, it sounds so easy, like all the community is so supportive, but I believe there is some, how to say, disagreement. So I just wonder, how do you deal with it? And maybe you can share like how long it actually take you to materialize all the ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. To materialize the ideas was probably 15 years. That's why I got no hair lah. It was a battle in my hometown, and the people who disagreed, it was a war. You just battle that person until they get tired and give up. Then they run away. We counted the numbers in the community, and if you have a majority rules, the ones that are negative, like I said, we argue with them until they just wear down and give up and go home, and you never see them again. So then we can go forward. One of the hurdles, and this is very important, one of the hurdles we had was with the council, because like I said, the council is struggling just to keep infrastructure going. They can't handle all this other placemaking stuff. So that's why the community took over. What I found was, it's the hierarchy of humankind. Somebody always wants to be a leader in a group. There's the funny guy, there's the guy that says, come on, let's go to the beach. There's always a leader. So what we did was identified somebody with a strong character in this community meeting. There's always one person that talks more, talks louder, has more information, more knowledge. So we take that person out of this community group and we make him the leader. Now that fella can go to the council and talk and talk and talk and talk until the council even gives up. Because he has an answer for everything. Because why? He loves his community. He is so passionate about it. And he's determined. So what we did was we started very, very small. This is not big. 1 footpath at a time. That's how we conquered the neighbourhood. 1 footpath at a time. So, example, in front of my house, we build a vegetable garden. Herbs. All the houses in that street, with 12 houses, they come down, they pick some herbs. My herbs are your herbs. Now, people don't understand that because I'm giving. We're all used to taking all the time. So you come to my front garden, take my herbs. It's yours. It's mine, it's yours. And so what happens is people start to trust and they start to feel the love coming through because, oh, you're a very generous man. You're giving me some herbs. Please help yourself, take. And so you conquer things footpath by footpath. So what happens one day, in 12 months' time, the council comes down to have a look and it's beautified. It's got some trees, it's maintained, it's looked after. We used to get the big corporations like your Lysarts, Borrells, people who do paving and say, look, we're a small community, please can you, if you've got some material left over from an old project somewhere in your property, can you please give it to us? They would come with a truck, dump some paving blocks, and we would go out on the weekend, dig, put pop, plant some trees, all of that kind of stuff. Even hanging a hose over the fence with water coming out of it so somebody can drink. And we conquered the neighbourhood street by street, led by example. That's what we did. And so the council then saw, boy, you're very determined people. They saw us as very determined people. Eh? You want to spend your time and energy making your street beautiful. Then we got respect. They said, okay, and they would let us grow block by block by block by block until we had one big, long, beautiful, tree-lined street. And it took many, many years for this to happen until eventually they let us do it all by ourselves. They, instead of throwing the rule book at us, they would guide us. And may we suggest that you do this? May we suggest? So that it wasn't headmaster, student. We were talking man to man now and making suggestions, and they would suggest things to us, and we said, oh, that's a good idea, Mr. Councillor, and we would implement it, and then the council would feel good. And so it was not a battle. We stopped it from being a battle to being share, friend, and we moved forward. And that's how, but it took a long time, huh? And probably my grandchildren now are benefiting from it. It's not overnight. But once the council sees you're determined to take back your community and love it, it all goes smoothly, hopefully.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very sorry, I forgot to also acknowledge who is joining us here today. Up on stage is our organizing chairman, architect Michael Chong over here. Ladies and gentlemen, why don't we give a hand once again to Mr. Nguyen Hoang Man from Vietnam and Mr. Richard Parker from Australia. Thank you very much.